Good to see you. Okay, Amanda, will you do a call to order, roll call, establish a quorum for the City of Perkins special meeting, April 29th, 2026?
Mayor?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes, ma'am.
Verona?
Yes. You stand and pray with me. Father, we just come to you now. We ask you once again for your wisdom. Help us to make decisions tonight that's best for the citizens of this city of Perkins. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 4, consideration and discussion regarding City of Perkins operating budget for fiscal year 2026-2027. Bob?
This is a continuation from the previous meeting where we were talking about the budget and the associated recommended rate increase of 10% to make the budget balance in its current state. The proposed rate increase that staff is recommending simply comes from the cost of doing business is going up. And we have to do something in order to try to do that.
Racial commissioners, anybody?
I don't have anything to add. If there are questions, I can try to answer.
I don't have any.
Things included in the budget are a 5% pay increase for staff. Funding promotions in the police department, funding promotions in public works. Health insurance went up again. It's not sustainable at the rate that health insurance continues to increase. So that last year there was not a raise for employees, but they had to start contributing for their health insurance. So they essentially took a pay cut. And this year their contribution went up. Was it 12%? Whatever the health insurance went up.
Yeah, the health insurance went up 24%, their contribution went up 10%.
Yeah. So the 5% pay increase is almost bringing them back to level after the health insurance increases. Property insurance is increasing, fuel is increasing, chemicals and treatment are increasing, parts are increasing. I don't know really what else to say. Now, in the event the commission does not want to increase rates, which I understand nobody wants to do that, we will make cuts in the budget because we have to have a balanced budget.
Those cuts won't come from their raises, though.
It will come, the majority of the cuts would have to come from personnel because that's about all we can cut. Everything else is by statute or duty. You know, we have to treat the water.
But I don't want that to happen,
I understand.
regardless.
Or maybe not raises, but maybe it could come about by reducing personnel, like cutting a position
Two.
or two. Electricity went up. Nothing's going down. But it's the same thing we're experiencing in all of our households.
I would like to see in the future that there's a resolution on a cost of living increase every year so that citizens know that this is coming, so that this doesn't have to come before the commission every single year. It's just, this is the toughest spot I've been in the whole time I've been the mayor, and I don't like it one bit.
And it's not something I enjoy recommending.
I'm not saying that either, I'm just saying, it's just, like, I have a hard time thinking about how we got here. And, you know, why wasn't it stayed on top of in years past? And, you know,
Probably because it wasn't an easy thing to do.
well, it's not easy for the five of us either.
I understand.
And so passing blame doesn't help any of us right now. We are where we are, but everything keeps going up and up except for salaries.
Absolutely.
And we have some people in our community that are at poverty level or below. Anybody make a motion?
Yeah, we don't need a motion tonight. We're just basically looking for direction on what to bring back for the final budget.
We don't need a vote tonight?
No. But we need
So I stressed for, no, I'm just kidding.
direction as, do you want to leave the budget the same with a 10% increase or some percentage increase in it? Or do you want the budget to reflect some other percent or 0%? So we know because we have to bring back a balanced budget with revenue and expense. So we're just looking for direction.
Well, I want the employees to get their 5%. No matter what. I don't think the sewer collapse lines that we had helps this decision at all, or it made it even worse.
Well, and there's not a viable way to address 25,000 or 20,000 feet of concrete sewer lines through a rate increase, unless you want to increase them like 2,000%.
I think one thing I have a hard time wrapping my brain around, why am I the only one talking?
I was gonna say something, but you kept talking.
Okay, keep going.
No, don't lose your thought, keep going.
It's already gone. No, I have a hard time sometimes in wrapping my brain around the fact that the city has to pay to get the lead out when it's the older homes that are leaching the lead from the lead and copper pipes from years and years and years ago. Now, on the other hand, I understand that those are the people that can't afford to have it, fixed. And so it's just like a vicious circle and a catch-22. But putting all that back on the citizens is just, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around.
Well, and I think there's also a very valid argument to be made that municipalities, especially in Oklahoma, are not funded adequately, or there's not funding mechanisms in place.
Well, you and I were there last week at a breakfast, and we got a lot of I don't knows.
Yep.
Where's the money gonna come from? I don't know.
And the grant money is drying up.
And, I mean, they wanna give teacher pay raises. Where's the money come from? I don't know. And so, it's all trickling down to us. And,
It's trickling back down to the citizen is who's going to foot the bill for all of it, and they're going to come from all angles at it. This is only a microcosm of where it's going to come from.
That's what a 10% increase for about 80% of our customers or residents will amount to $9.62 or less per month.
go ahead.
Could you see me processing?
Mm-hmm.
I hear and respect the want and need for raises, and I'm definitely not against those. But then the other side of it is nobody else is going to get a raise to compromise for the bill going up.
That's correct.
And this may or may not be true, but because a bill is going up and the citizens are not getting pay raises or social security or disability isn't going up, how many people is that gonna affect to move out of our city? The thoughts.
I mean, Perkins at one time was the least expensive place to live, and it feels like it's getting more and more expensive to live here.
That may be why we're in the position we're in now.
Go ahead and explain that.
They weren't charging for maintenance and upgrades. They weren't charging for maintaining the infrastructure. And at some point, I mean, if you are in the business of doing anything, you have to make enough money to be able to do it. We're not even in it to make money. I mean, that's not what a city does, but we do have a duty to provide a service as safe and reliable as we can.
The only reason I don't want the employees to lose their 5% raise is because they're not having to pay for their insurance. I mean, they're having to foot the bill for part of their insurance. Whereas, you know, I don't get paid very much, but my insurance is part of my package. So, and a lot of us,
I have to pay for a part of my insurance.
oh, you do?
I do too.
I don't get it.
How long has it been like that?
Mine at Frontier, it's been like that from day one, but for the past 7 years, Frontier itself has absorbed the increase. So we have not had an employee pay increase in at least 7 years. And I've lived in Stillwater, and I know my bills down here are 10 times less than what I would be paying in Stillwater. And I see it on Facebook all the time. Somebody said I had a $300 City of Stillwater bill this month. And I'm like, for what? So I still think Perkins is below, not everybody surrounding us, but I don't think everybody's gonna leave Perkins and move to Stillwater. It might be the reverse. If they start seeing what we have.
The numbers that you gave us didn't show that Stillwater's paying more.
Yeah.
Shows that Stillwater's paying less.
Yeah, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, they're also charging for electric.
Okay, so electric's in there as well.
I'm assuming electric.
I think so.
Yeah, Stillwater does their own electric.
Suckers, that's why they have so much money.
But electric's probably not in those numbers.
It's not in these numbers, no.
Not in the numbers, no.
But if you get a bill in Stillwater, I believe it's electric, water, sewer, trash.
And ambulance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in all reality, if it was two separate bills, they would have to pay it anyways.
Jason?
You know, I don't think anyone up here wants to increase. I don't. I don't think the ones living here want to do it. And everything's going up. That's just the reality of where everything's at. If you look at it as a city, as a business, you got to make ends meet. You got to make X equal Y. Looking at the numbers, the only way I see to do that is to do the rate increase without cutting staff. And I don't think you're at a position where you can cut staff and still do what's needed to be done for the city. From where I'm sitting, I just don't see
No,
it.
something would suffer.
Exactly.
Where are your other ideas of cuts? Besides just going straight to personnel?
There's not a lot of fat on that bone.
Not
You know,
$81,000 and $81,555 can't be found from somewhere?
well, that's not the shortage.
It's 162,000.
We don't increase at all, it's 162,000.
Could you tell me what page that on, so I make sure?
On page 10.
Rachel, can you explain that page to me?
That one.
Yeah,
That was the shortfall, okay, my
Yes,
bad.
it's the, there it is.
This one?
Yes.
So if we do zero increase at all, then the expenses that I've projected exceed the revenue we brought in by $162,000.
And we increase it by, we do a rate increase 3%, it's down to 115 and so forth. I just, my head's not mathing. Why, at 8%, we're a shortfall of 38,191, and at 10%, we're in the plus 81?
Yeah, we're in a surplus.
I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I feel like that's right. I feel like I checked it several times. I can't answer that question without
The
a
calculator,
calculator and a spreadsheet.
your sticky notes.
I mean, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't, either.
The 81,000 surplus you're talking about is in Public Works, and that's shown as a surplus, but what's not factored into the budget, because we don't have the numbers, is debt service on the loans for a water meter system, and water lines connecting the two pressure planes are basically the two big towers. That, in the event we do those loans, we're gonna have to make payments. That's where that money will come in. But I'm not sure I understand your question about what you were asking.
Well, I think he's asking about the math.
Yes.
That it doesn't look logical to go from minus 38 to plus 81. Is that right? Which, I'm sorry, I can't do that in my head. I feel like I had it calculated. I feel like I calculated it several times. That's the only answer I have for that.
Unless you're talking about Fund 1 on the first one.
It's like 7% to 8% is $6,000 difference, and then 8 to 10 is $119,000.
But what's not factored in this is if we do like a sales increase, sale percentage increase, that's not in this packet at all, right?
I don't think that,
And we can't do that till like October, right?
I think we need Bob to re-explain where he was thinking with that 1%, because I don't think that that 1% was intended to, I think it was intended just for like sewer infrastructure and not.
Right, so the big problems or issues we have are our water meter system. We need additional water lines to connect the two pressure planes. Lead service lines is mandated by the EPA, which may be paid for by the EPA, but nobody knows yet. And sewer line replacements. The first three can potentially be financed and paid for, or at least a good majority of it, with this rate increase. The sewer lines is that's a 5 million, very conservatively, 5 million to, I mean, $7 or $8 million project that's gonna take a much larger chunk of money to make the payments. And that's what I've been trying to figure out, how are we gonna afford to replace these sewer lines so we can get ahead of it? That's when I had the idea or the thought of a possibility of another 1-cent sales tax dedicated to, water and sewer infrastructure and debt service or something, so that it would stay there. And then, when we paid off replacing sewer lines, we're gonna be 20 years down the road, and guess what? We're gonna have more to replace.
So, David, what's your thought on if we increase by 10%, then we come back later wanting a 1 cent sales tax? Or anybody at the table, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think that's a political question. And
Well, I don't see any politicians in here, so.
um,
Don't raise that eyebrow.
it's, I think it's tough, but I think at the end of the day, what it all comes down to for me, number one, I don't want anybody on the commission to feel pressured or that I'm saying, we're gonna cut positions if you don't do this. I feel like that's what's coming out of my mouth, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is there's gonna have to be cuts made. We can sharpen the pencil and do everything we can not to impact personnel, but there's things that will be impacted. When you take money out, or you don't have money and expenses have increased, we're gonna spend more money on water treatment chemicals because of the Get the Lead Out initiative, and we're changing
The pH 30% from 50%.
well, yeah, the pH adjustment chemical, we have to change, so we're gonna use more. We're gonna probably spend more, but it's easier on the system.
Do the rest of the commissioners understand the 50-30 on the chemicals that he's talking about? Go ahead, you can explain it better than I can.
Well, lead and copper comes from inside lead and copper lines, which are generally located in people's homes. The Safe Drinking Water Act that the EPA mandates that we treat water so metals don't leach in from homeowners' lines. In order to do that, you have to use orthophosphates, which sequester lead and copper by coating the line, basically. So there's a barrier between the lead pipe, it's like a film that won't let it get into the water. In order for the orthophosphates to work based on water alkalinity, you have to adjust the pH of the water to get it between 7.2 and 7.8 throughout the system in order for the orthophosphates to work. The higher your alkalinity, or the hardness of your water, you have to use more pH adjustment chemical, or sodium hydroxide, to adjust it. So you end up pumping a lot of chemical into the water to adjust the pH so the orthophosphates work. It costs money.
But you guys were using the 50%, but it clogs too
We were
much.
using 50% sodium hydroxide solution, but it freezes at 54 degrees. And it causes basically the pipes clog. So, and the reason we went to 50% was due to cost, because we spent $52,000 2 years ago on that. So we thought, the decision was made, if you use a stronger dose, you need less of it, which is a great thought, but none of the chemical people brought up the freezing point. So we have to go back to 30%.
So can we use the rest of that 50% this summer?
We're gonna get credited for it.
Okay, good.
But there's also gonna be fuel surcharges now because they deliver that stuff on big trucks. And they're paying $5 a gallon in diesel. So just like the guy running the chemical company or the hospital or anywhere, or Frontier Engineering, if they're paying for everybody's benefits and haven't increased it on the employees, they've had to increase it somewhere, because you have to have more revenue.
Mine were increased this year.
Yeah. So you have to, the lab rates at the hospital, I'm sure, go up with whatever the cost of whatever you're doing. And so I'm not saying if there's no rate increase, we're not gonna make it. We will make it. It'll just look different. And I'll make the appropriate cuts and come back with a balanced budget, and we'll go on down the road. I think the prudent thing to do is to increase rates, just because everything is going up.
Commissioners, anything else?
I think you need to leave the rate in. That's my opinion.
What do we do with, do we pass, David, or what do we do right here?
Just, we take no action on item 4.
But come to a consensus to direct me what to do. Like, if somebody'd rather see a 5% increase or a 7% increase or a 0% increase, I just kind of want to, I need to know the consensus so I can come back with a balanced budget. Because we have to plug the revenue number in, we have to project the revenue.
This is my opinion. I could better swallow a 5% increase with a resolution down the road for cost of whatever increases.
One resolution and automatically kick in every year? A utility rate increase, equal to CPI?
Do we have one?
No, we could do one. We could, because the resolution, whatever you guys decide without taking action, we'll have a resolution at the next meeting to do that, along with the budget.
I mean, just almost, the first thing that came to my mind is the Davis sanitation deal where it's,
Yeah.
you've got this,
Well, and right water, see, that goes up. Davis Sanitation, they spent like $5,000 on diesel or something just for Perkins in a month. And it's on there as a fuel surcharge because somebody's got to pay it.
anybody else can help Mr. Ernst with your ideas and thoughts?
Mayor, would you mind just making clear to me exactly what you're asking for? You want a resolution to where the utility rates automatically increase by a certain percentage every year to make sure that we're keeping up with? And is that specifically for salaries and
Sewer,
or just
water,
for the
and-
budget?
Yes, chemicals, whatever it takes to keep the water and the sewer running clean. And, and we don't have to have,
Yeah.
we don't have to have this every year and people will expect it, or they might not expect it, but
You'll have to have it every year because some subsequent council might just change their mind and you guys can't bind a future council. But it can be there that this is a resolution and this is the intent of.
that's what the intent is what I'm looking for.
I can write you that.
With, or anyone else?
That's good.
No, I think that in that regard is good because it'll help with the budget process, knowing what's going, you can figure it better and the citizens know it's going to be coming.
I think it lays the groundwork for easier process maybe and help the finance director have a better idea of where the money's, because I know you have to project a lot.
So
Should we increase it every year or every other?
I think if you put it in there based upon certain criteria, increase in maintenance costs or increase in, like you said, personnel, chemicals.
Or you could do something like some percentage increase or equal to or less than the consumer price index is defined by
Okay.
whatever,
So
whichever's less or whatever.
I want to ask a question. The mayor mentioned something like maybe a 5% increase instead of a 10. Here's where my mind went with that. We've spent the last, and I respect the opinion.
Oh, thank you. I know you do.
But if we look at where we're at now and what we've done the last 3 years is essentially, like was mentioned earlier, is play catch up from the years that we didn't do an increase or didn't do a large enough increase. maybe it's a rhetorical question.
This
Are
would
we
be,
pushing this down the line to where we're doing the same thing again later on if we don't do this now? I don't know.
the mayor and I were talking, and I think since 2014 to now, the consumer price indexing has increased
37%.
37%. And a 10% increase now would put us at about 38.
And then the CPI has increased 39% during that time.
Yeah. So this isn't,
So we're keeping it level with it.
yeah.
No, I
And
get
then with
that.
any luck, there's so many things at play here that are all outside of our control and way, way above our head. But the things that are being worked on at the state and national level may reverse course to where we do start seeing benefit and things, level off or go down, which is obviously the hope for everybody, whether you're running a city or a hospital or a house.
I still don't understand how you can come across with a mandate and still not have ways to fund that mandate.
Well, hey,
Of course, we're just chasing chickens now. Okay. Anybody else? No. Veronica? So how do we write that to direct Bob?
I think we've got to come to a consensus first.
yeah.
Yeah, we gotta come. on the
Well, we're not
percentage.
there yet then.
The actual impact for 80% of the customers and 80% of the customers is identified, is defined as 5,000 gallons or less. So if you go to page 9, 5,300 gallons of usage is a $9.62 increase per month. If you use 10,000 gallons, it's a $14.41 increase per month. So, the difference between the 5% is actually $5. Essentially, And the other thing is, you brought up this page 10 and the math, and I understand what you're saying now. I see it. Once whatever you give a consensus on, if we come back and find out our math was incorrect or something, we're obviously going to be open about that. Maybe we don't need to do 10%, maybe, whatever, if there's an issue in this spreadsheet. I'm not a spreadsheet person, so
And you said a 10% is like $9 and change.
yes.
Between the two, per month.
Page 4 shows you the numbers of people on average who use X number of gallons. That's where we get the 80%.
And about 1% of our 1% of our customers get cut off per month, on average. There's more than that are on payment plans because the staff does such a good job working with people.
Anybody else want to be the mayor? I am.
I think we have to do sucks.
I agree. I think we have to.
I'll put my big girl panties on. Then,
Hang on just a second. I'm looking at your chart.
Sorry.
I want to see something before.
You were over there mathing?
Hey, Mathen.
see, I didn't get that either, but I'm glad you brought it up. Watching him's hurting my brain.
It looks worse on that than what it really amounts. And I think what is throwing us off is the negative number, as far as the mathing is concerned. Because if you look at these differences here and you subtract the differences here, between a 3%, a 5%, a 7%, and 8%, if you look between the 3, 5, and 7, the difference between those ranges from $40,000 to $46,000 difference on each percentage line. If you look at the difference between 8 and 10, it's still a $43,000 difference line, but it looks weird to the eye
Because it goes from negative to positive.
because it goes from negative to positive.
Okay.
So, thank you. I think that, I hope that helped. Correct me if you find I'm wrong at some point.
I'm not saying I could, me and my finance department of one could definitely have a problem, but that is
I
something
don't,
that
I don't
checked
understand what you're saying.
lots of times.
I mean, I understood the first part of it, but. Oh, I understand what you're saying.
And there's no 9% in there, so we're.
Exactly. So you're jumping from
Oh,
8%
okay.
to 10%, but if you relate it to the percentages above it,
If you just
it
use
relates
numbers.
the same, but it looks different. It would have, so maybe for future, put a 9%
Put the 9
in,
in, yeah.
because it's going to show the stair step, because you.
We like you, Jason.
Hope it helped.
We did.
Now, sorry to interrupt. You
So-
can continue.
There's a large part of me that's totally against this. And then there's the numbers, not emotional person that realizes that we probably need to go with a 10%. Even though it's totally not what I want to do.
When would this start?
July 1st.
Well, as far as the increase?
So it usually starts July 1, which means then it doesn't actually start until the August, when we read meters in August.
Because you're paying for July.
Because because we read meters around the 15th or 16th, so you're crossing them, so through July 15th, it would be still at these rates. Come July 15th, then the new rates would actually be read. So then the August bill. August bill due in September. Yes, August bill due in September.
Do you have your,
Thank you.
Stay to last.
Yes.
Try.
do you have your consensus?
I think so.
Puts a bad taste in my mouth.
I don't like it.
I don't like it either. I've said no for,
And this isn't the end all be all either. I'm still gonna look at it pretty hard. And,
so just because we've said this stuff about, yeah, well, we don't like it, but maybe you have to do it. I think all of us would like for you to do what you just said. We'll go back and see if you can find a way to take some of this off of our citizens.
I think your directive should be something along the lines of, we understand that a rate increase is necessary, and you, as the commissioners, would like staff to hold that rate increase to the smallest amount possible to still balance the budget and cover all essential needs.
Did you get that?
And that's where I was gonna go, because this is proposed still. It's not final. These could adjust.
That's what I'd like to see.
And I think we can say safely that you don't want to see any more than 10%.
That would be,
And so it will be the smallest amount possible that still covers your requirements to have a balanced budget. And to the extent that Bob can get things sharper, we'll
So-
consider doing so.
that would be a no action on number 4?
Wait, hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm just a curious person and I like to see things on paper, would it be too much to ask to see what we are talking about now doing, seeing what the numbers could possibly be versus what would happen if cuts were made other places?
I didn't understand your question, I'm sorry.
If we didn't do the 10%, what would it look like somewhere else? What, one versus the other? Yeah,
wanna
one
see-
versus the other.
You wanna know what we would have to cut in order, is that what you're
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah,
What I think,
What
what
would
I
it
think
affect?
Keith is wanting is,
a comparison.
if there was
Comparison.
two ways that it could be presented, one with the 10% and one with the 10% utility increase and one without, as far as what would have to be cut to make the budget work.
I think that would be beneficial when you can explain to the citizens, look, here are the two paths in front of us. You want me to hire 10 people, or you want me to do a 10% rate increase?
So you're not asking for two budgets, you just would like a list of what we would have to do?
Yeah.
Is that,
Comparison, yeah.
is doing a whole second budget?
No, I don't want a whole second
Feasible.
budget. Basically, just a comparison, because it's gonna make a lot more sense to me voting yes or no when I can make it make sense in my head and explain to a citizen of, I know this is not gonna be easy on all of us, and it's because of this versus unfortunately, this
And
has to happen to make us all
And
survive.
I think one thing I would just throw out there, just because I know we know it, but I don't know that we think about it actively, but when we're budgeting and we're looking at all the different funds and all the different pots of money, and a lot of you work in industries where this is true, right? Capital improvement sales tax can only be used for capital improvement sales tax. Public safety sales tax we can't not buy a police car and use that money towards salaries, because we can't use that money for salaries.
Right.
So that's, just keeping that in mind.
That would be something to explain to a citizen.
I think it's a good idea. Not a whole lot more work on you, just to show this is what it looked like with it, and this is what it looked like without it. And this is where these things, this is what we would have to lose, like David said. We can have this increase, or we can lose staff. And then you've got even more problems when you lose staff, because then you don't have anybody to come in the middle of the night to fix the water main break, or to,
There'd
dig
be
a ditch.
more problems if that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of like staff wages, one thing Bob's always concentrated on since I came to work for him is making wages reasonably competitive. We're small town, we can't compete with Stillwater, but we can compete with Cushing and Guthrie.
We save money with turnover, because when you have turnover, you have to train.
Absolutely.
You build a culture like you want it.
Yeah, and when people stay, and not really, people are staying right now, I just jinxed it, but then it takes the pressure off other people, because now we're all getting our institutional knowledge, and so.
Just
Okay.
speaking as a citizen and for other ones, when I look at this, I have a deep, I have a hard time swallowing it,
I know.
so.
I don't like putting it on
Why?
paper.
I'm not asking that like to be mean or anything, but what,
No, absolutely.
Do you want me to say it?
I don't know how, I'm completely honest. I've always thrown up information here and everybody sees my personal life on here. Like, that's a big increase for a one-income mom. And I'm not gonna receive half the child support I do because my son's graduating high school, which helped pay a lot of stuff. I have to buy a goat in June that I can't afford because my daughter didn't make premium sell. How? That's, I'm
$14 is a
gonna
lot.
cry. Hold on. It's tough.
No, I agree.
And I'm sorry, this just like, I know other people are gonna feel this a lot more harder than I am. And I'm so sorry.
No,
No, I get it.
this is why we need such a diverse commission. Because we're all living real lives and it affects all of us, and to include our financial director. And when you struggle making ends meet, I know of a lot of people that are on this list that need a payment plan or have had to get their water shut off. I know more than, so like 2% of whatever population struggle, I know that 2%. And so, I think if it's worded in a real, like, I'm trying to put my words together. What Sarah asked for in that comparison will speak to the citizens out there that are struggling. You know, there's a lot of people out there that care. I wish we had people in here, okay, that showed that they cared more, not until the bill or whatever affects them, but be proactive about it. But there's a lot of people that can't make ends meet and struggle paying the water bill. Now you're gonna raise it. Okay.
I think that's also why it's important for the way it's set in, the commission needs to live within the city limits so that what the commission does, they're affected by it too.
Yep. So everybody had their fill? Right here.
Can I ask a question? And your answer is totally okay. Do you want to discuss this again in May and not have the public hearing and such? And perhaps we could then schedule a meeting a little bit, like a week or so after that, to do the public hearing and actually officially adopt the budget. And my question is because I have to publish what we think is going to be the budget, and there's a certain number of days before the meeting it has to be published, which the deadline would then be this coming Monday. So I don't want to press anybody. I don't want you to feel rushed by any
Does it need to be
means.
passed at the June meeting or in May?
I like to do it in May because we have end of fiscal year in June. So
It has to be passed in
it
June.
has to be passed in June.
But here's the other thing, a budget can be passed and amended later.
Absolutely.
Gonna look on camera like
So either way is okay with me if you want to talk again in the May regular meeting, and then maybe talk about having a public hearing after that. That would be
We can put both of them
lovely.
on the agenda and we can pass one or the other.
I wouldn't be able to make anything until the 28th of May. And that's pushing it for you.
I'm out quite a bit after
The last day of school.
the last part of May, just me.
I mean, I think we've beat it around tonight.
I mean, if you're okay with me publishing like the budget as it is, and then, yes, we can change it. So we come back in May and you say, I don't want to do that, that's not, just because it was published doesn't mean it's set in stone. It's just that we have to publish and we have to talk about it and have a public hearing.
Well, I think it's a good idea to get it published, then maybe people will say something.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I wish the seats were full of citizens telling us how they felt about it. So, all right, so number 4 will be a pass, and we direct city staff to come up with a budget, as I said, the lowest percentage possible to keep things running, personnel in place for the sewer and water rate increase. That was choppy, but that sound good, David?
Yes, ma'am.
That'll do.
That'll do.
We don't need a motion on that, right? Okay. Number 5, adjourn. We don't have to do roll call since we're all here, do we?
Well, we have Public Works, because I didn't know if we needed to talk about Public Works or not, so we have both meetings. Do we just need to call it to order and then adjourn it?
Make a motion to call to order, or, sorry, I'll do it differently. Amanda, call to order, roll call, and establish a quorum for the Perkins Public Works Authority.
All right, Mayor,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Sarah. Yes. Jason,
Yes, ma'am.
Veronica.
Yes.
Pass on number 2, it's already been talked about. Number 3, adjourn.
It's really good.
It's not the fastest meeting ever.